let's look at our next example. Okay, our next type of example is to always, when you're asked to factor, the first thing you should look for is a GCF. You should look for a greatest common factor. Okay, do all my terms have something in common? So, if they do, after you take out the GCF, you should always see if you can factor the remaining trinomial. A lot of times you can. So you should always look to see if all your terms have something in common first. And you want to take out the greatest common factor. What's the biggest thing that they all have in common? You got to look at the numbers and you got to look at the variables. You got to look at the numbers and the variables, both of those, when you're trying to figure out the GCF. Now, I'm going to show you how I look at a GCF. It helps some people. It helps a lot of people when you're trying to figure out, well, what do I need to put in my parentheses after this? Okay. So let's look at number 8 on your worksheet. Okay, number 8 on your worksheet is the first one we're going to look at. 3n cubed plus 27n squared plus 42n. So first of all, let's look at the numbers. 3, 27, and 42. I always start with the first number and see if the other numbers are divisible by that one. So are all 3 of these numbers divisible by 3? They are. Okay, so we know 3 is a part of our GCF. Then we need to look at the variables. See if the variables have anything in common. N cubed, n squared, and n. All 3 terms have at least an n, so 3n is our GCF here. So I'm going to put a set of parentheses following my GCF. Here's how I decide what to put back inside my parentheses. When you take out a GCF, it's like you go through and you divide every term by the GCF. So I think it's helpful to go through and show that, so then you can decide, well, what goes in my parentheses here? Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1. We don't need to write down the 1. N cubed divided by n. When you're dividing, do you remember what you do with exponents? Subtract. Okay, when you're dividing, you subtract. Think of that division bar representing a minus sign. Okay, when you're dividing, you subtract. So n cubed over n is n squared. Bring down your sign of a plus. 27 over 3 is 9. 27 divided by 3 is 9. N squared over n, if there's not an exponent there, it's understood to be 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So that's 9n. 42 divided by 3 is 14. Yeah, 14. Okay? And n over n, it's like when we divided 3 by 3. It's just 1, so we leave it. Okay, we just leave it. All right, now we need to look and see if we can factor n squared plus 9n plus 14, and we can. Now, here's what a lot of people forget. They don't want to bring down the GCF. When they factor again, they just look at the parentheses. That GCF has to stay there, or you've lost part of your answer. So bring down the 3n, and then we factor the n squared plus 9n plus 14. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 plus 2 is 9. The 14 was positive, so the signs are the same. The 9 was positive, so they're both positives. Okay, I'm not going to multiply this one out to check it, but you could also do that. Multiply the n plus 7 times the n plus 2, simplify it, and then multiply everything by 3n. Okay,